These joists sit in these timber hangers right here, and they're fastened to this 2x10 right here, which is called a ledger board.
You'd be working outside, right?
Sure is. We're actually going to work outside building a picnic table. How did I end up on this old house? Russ Morris was the creator of this.
For over 40 years, America welcomed him into their living rooms with a smile, a hammer, and a calm voice that made even the most complicated renovation feel simple. But behind the camera, behind the perfectly sanded baseboards and carefully restored crown moldings, lived a man quietly shouldering the weight of a lifetime of sacrifice. Tom Silva wasn't just a builder, he became the face of this old house, a mentor to millions, and a silent warrior battling pain no one ever saw. His hands built homes for strangers, but they also carried the scars of decades of relentless work. And as the cameras rolled, few realized the toll it was taking, not just on his body, but on his personal life. This is the real story of Tom Silva, the man who built everything except an escape plan. Before the world knew his name, before television crews followed him through hallways of half-finished homes and fans recognized him as the voice of calm in chaotic renovations, Tom Silva was just a curious kid in Massachusetts with a hammer in his hand and sawdust in his lungs. Born in January 1947, Tom was raised in a working-class Boston neighborhood where respect wasn't something you demanded, it was something you earned with every call-used palm and perfectly nailed joist. His father, a seasoned contractor, didn't give lectures about discipline or responsibility. Instead, he handed young Tom a broom at job sites, and that broom turned into a saw, then into blueprints, then into trust. While other kids played in the streets, Tom was at construction sites before he even had a driver's license, watching in awe as beams were hoisted and walls took shape. By grade school, he wasn't just helping, he was understanding. He could eyeball a beam level, measure twice and cut once, and intuit how things fit together without needing to be told. His father taught him more than just tools and timber. He taught respect for the material, the client, the work itself. That respect would become the cornerstone of everything Tom built in life. Even back then, when the Cold War had families digging fallout shelters, Tom wasn't afraid. He was helping his dad build one beneath their house. That experience didn't just teach him about structural safety, it forged a deep, almost spiritual connection to building, creating spaces that protected and served people. It was never about glamour. It was about grit. And while his classmates dreamed of office jobs in big cities, Tom was already building his future with every nail he drove and every lesson he absorbed in silence. He wasn't chasing money, he was chasing mastery. And even as a teen, it was clear, this wasn't just a summer job, this was destiny. By the time most young men were figuring out what they wanted to do with their lives, Tom Silva had already laid the first bricks of a legacy. Alongside his father and brothers, he co-founded Silva Brothers Construction in Lexington, Massachusetts, a modest company at first glance, but one built on principles that were anything but ordinary. Their mission wasn't just to renovate, it was to restore the soul of every home they touched. From the beginning, their projects weren't driven by profit margins or speed, they were fueled by an obsession with quality and a deep reverence for historical craftsmanship. While others tore down the old to make room for the new, Tom and his brothers studied the bones of buildings, recreating lost details, preserving period architecture, and hand-fabricating parts no longer available in the modern market. Each job was a handshake, each renovation a promise. They worked with precision, grit, and that same silent pride passed down from their father. What set their company apart wasn't just technical skill, it was heart. And that heart was visible in the smallest of things, how they patched aged brick with care, how they aligned trim with surgical precision, how they cleaned up a job site like it was their own backyard. The company quickly became known not just for what they built, but for how they built it. And as the jobs grew in complexity, so did Tom's leadership. He wasn't just the guy holding the hammer, he was the one solving the puzzle, guiding apprentices, balancing budgets, and making calls when conditions got tough. And while the world hadn't caught on yet, word was spreading in New England. that if you wanted a renovation done right, you called the Silvas. But little did Tom know, one upcoming job, just another project in Lexington, would become the doorway to a future no one in his family saw coming. As Tom Silva's face became a fixture in millions of homes across America, the man himself began to disappear from his own private life. This old house had transformed him into a national figure, but behind the polished edits and perfectly framed reveals was a man trying to balance legacy and normalcy, something easier said than done. Fame came quietly for Tom, not with red carpets or media frenzies, but with airport stares, home show crowds, and the unspoken pressure to always be the unshakable expert. And yet, despite his growing popularity, Tom did something most celebrities never do. He hid his real life in plain sight. He never played the part of a star. He didn't flaunt wealth, didn't chase endorsements for clout, and rarely spoke about the people closest to him. But behind the curtain, his personal life was as carefully built as the homes he restored. His marriage to Susan Silva, quiet and resilient, became the foundation that supported his grueling work ethic. They didn't need to pose for cameras, she preferred the background, and Tom respected that. Together they raised 2 children, Kate and TJ, not in Hollywood mansions, but in a painstakingly restored 19th century home nestled in the Boston suburbs. There were no velvet ropes, no fleets of luxury cars, just hardwood floors with character, a home full of history and memories shaped by love, not luxury. Yet the toll was real. As Tom's career demanded more time, he missed moments, school plays, long weekends, the small things most people take for granted. He showed up when it counted, yes, but the price of that public persona was silence about the aches, the exhaustion, and the pressure of being everyone's trusted builder. While others speculated about his wealth, Tom focused on making dinner with his wife, mentoring his children, and spending quiet time in the yard. It was a life lived deliberately, not extravagantly. But as the applause for his work grew louder, the quiet whispers of wear and tear on his health began to grow too, and soon they couldn't be ignored. Behind every flawlessly installed fixture and smoothly delivered instruction was a body slowly falling apart. While Tom Silva's on-screen presence remained steady and composed, off-camera, the years of physical labor were taking a toll no camera ever captured. Decades spent crouching under floor joists, lifting beams, working through winter storms and summer heat waves, had carved more than just muscles. They'd etched pain into his joints, stress into his back, and stiffness into his hands. Viewers saw precision and calm. They didn't see the aching shoulders after hours of shooting or the quiet winces when standing too long. And Tom, being who he was, never talked about it. He pushed through, because that's what builders do. But in 2001, something shifted. Whispers of health problems began circulating. Fans speculated that the years of labor had finally caught up with him. Though the details were never publicly confirmed, insiders reported increasing physical strain, chronic pain from muscle overuse, joint fatigue, and the kind of exhaustion that doesn't go away with sleep. A forum user recalled seeing Tom limping slightly, moving slower than usual, and suddenly fans realized their icon was human after all. But Tom never confirmed or denied. He simply kept showing up. Some episodes saw him working fewer hours on site. Others highlighted apprentices or younger tradesmen taking on more responsibility. And yet, even in pain, Tom led with humility and focus. He adjusted without complaint, teaching others how to work smart instead of just hard. In an industry built on brute force, Tom leaned into wisdom. He knew when to push, when to step back, and when to let someone else take the reins. The man who once climbed ladders 2 steps at a time now watched from the ground, guiding with words instead of muscle. And still, viewers trusted him, perhaps even more. Because real strength isn't about never breaking, it's about knowing how to rebuild yourself. And as Tom faced the realities of aging in the spotlight, he proved once again that his greatest skill wasn't just carpentry, it was perseverance. In a world overflowing with influencers chasing brand deals and slapping their names on whatever sells, Tom Silva stood apart. He didn't just use tools, he respected them. And when he recommended a product, the industry listened, not because he was famous, but because he was honest. Over the years, offers poured in, endorsements, licensing deals, paid promotions, but Tom turned down far more than he accepted. He wasn't interested in easy money. He was interested in truth. If it didn't work on his job site, it didn't deserve his name. His integrity became as recognizable as his face. Builders, homeowners, even rival contractors paid attention because they knew if Tom Silva said it was reliable, it had been field tested in the harshest of conditions. He aligned himself only with brands he genuinely used, saws, drills, levels, and building materials that met his own relentless standards. Unlike TV hosts who smiled for ads they didn't believe in, Tom put his reputation on the line with every recommendation, and never once did he misuse the trust he had built over decades. But his connection to tools went beyond business. They were an extension of his philosophy. In recent years, Tom began sharing a more personal side of his craftsmanship, his wood-turning hobby. It wasn't about contracts or show ratings. It was about creating something beautiful with his hands again, away from the cameras and deadlines. He posted videos of handmade bowls, vessels, and custom pieces, giving fans a glimpse into his private workshop where the rhythm of a lathe replaced the noise of production sets. These weren't just casual hobbies, they were meditative acts of craftsmanship from a man who never stopped learning. It was Tom Silva unplugged, raw and focused, showing that even after a lifetime of building for others, he still found joy in shaping a single block of wood. That joy, that quiet commitment to the craft, reminded everyone watching that true expertise isn't loud, it's consistent, earned, and humble. Whether on screen or behind the scenes, Tom Silva built more than homes. He built trust, and in an industry where trust is rare, that made him invaluable. If there's one thing Tom Silva built even more carefully than the homes he restored, it was the people around him. His quiet mentorship didn't come with press releases or grand speeches. It happened in the rhythm of shared work, subtle nods of approval, and patient instruction on job sites that doubled as classrooms. Long before the word influencer meant anything, Tom was influencing generations, not with selfies, but with sawdust. Apprentices who came to Silva Brothers Construction looking for a job left with a trade, a standard, and a blueprint for integrity. Tom didn't just teach how to install a beam, he taught how to earn someone's trust through quality, punctuality, and humility. His mentorship style was simple: let them try, let them fail, then show them how to do it better. And perhaps no student was more visible than his own foster son, Charlie Silva, who not only learned the ropes under Tom's guidance, but eventually became his co-lead on this old house. Viewers often assumed Charlie was his biological son, and in many ways, he was. The mentorship went beyond bloodlines. It was about legacy, and Tom was determined to pass down everything he knew to the next generation, but the mentoring didn't stop with family. Tom became a beacon in the trades community, speaking at workshops and builder expos, urging young people to rediscover the dignity in working with their hands. He called out the cultural shift that devalued skilled labor and made it his mission to restore respect for carpentry, plumbing, and craftsmanship as real careers, not fallback options. His passion wasn't about nostalgia, it was about survival. He knew that without fresh hands and minds entering the trades, the knowledge he'd spent a lifetime collecting could disappear. So he shared it, through television, speaking gigs, hands-on training, and even in his books. Whether it was a teenage apprentice unsure of his future, or a lifelong viewer learning how to fix a leaky faucet, Tom gave them tools, not just physical, but philosophical. In an era obsessed with shortcuts, he taught the value of doing things right the first time. And in doing so, he became more than a contractor. He became a legend, not because he said so, but because the people he quietly shaped say it for him every single day. For all the admiration, applause, and accolades Tom Silva earned, few ever saw what it cost him. While the spotlight glowed softly around his face on television, shadows of personal pain stretched quietly behind the scenes. Tom rarely spoke publicly about struggles. He built his reputation on strength, steadiness, and humility, but even the strongest beams eventually show signs of strain. Years of physical wear and tear weren't the only burdens he carried. Insiders whisper of missed moments, silent sacrifices, and health scares that never made headlines. In 2001, rumors swirled about his departure from this old house, with speculation that health issues and physical exhaustion had finally caught up. While no formal announcement detailed the truth, it was clear to those paying attention that something had changed. His on-screen appearances became more spaced out. Certain physical tasks were delegated to younger contractors. The man who once hoisted beams with ease now stood further back, guiding others with the wisdom of experience and the quiet ache of someone who had given too much. But Tom never asked for sympathy. He showed up, worked through the pain, and let his legacy speak louder than his discomfort. Yet the emotional weight of being America's favorite contractor wasn't light either. Viewers expected perfection, producers expected consistency, and Tom, never one to let anyone down, carried that responsibility year after year. Behind his calm voice were sleepless nights, aging joints, and the mental toll of never really turning off. Unlike most celebrities, Tom had no escape. His fame was built on authenticity. He couldn't fake a smile or outsource a scene, and that authenticity, while beautiful, also became a trap. He had to always be Tom Silva, the trustworthy craftsman, the man who never missed a measurement, but he was human, a husband, a father, a man trying to balance greatness with peace. And as his body reminded him of its limits, Tom was forced to reckon with a truth he'd spent years ignoring: even legends need rest. The tragedy, if there is one, isn't scandal or failure. It's that for much of his career, Tom gave everything: his time, his strength, his youth, to everyone else's homes, while quietly surrendering pieces of his own comfort along the way. To understand Tom Silva's success, you have to forget everything you've been told about what it means to be wealthy. He doesn't wear designer suits, he doesn't flash luxury watches, he's not parading through the halls of fame or snapping selfies on private jets. Instead, Tom wears a work shirt dusted with sawdust, carries blueprints under his arm, and lives in a house he personally restored, an 18th century gem tucked away in the suburbs of Boston. That house, like Tom himself, doesn't scream for attention. It simply stands strong, quiet, and lasting. After nearly 4 decades on this old house, after mentoring thousands and appearing on television screens across the country, Tom's estimated net worth falls somewhere between $2.50 to $6 million, but that figure barely scratches the surface of what he's truly built. His wealth lives in the details, in the homeowners who trusted him to bring history back to life, in the apprentices who carry his lessons into new generations, in the family dinners shared in a home held together by love and labor. He earned his fortune not by chasing trends, but by staying rooted in timeless craftsmanship. His business, Silva Brothers Construction, still operates with the same family-first approach, still reinvests in people and projects instead of luxury. Tom doesn't own fleets of cars or sprawling estates, but what he does own is rarer: respect, credibility, and a body of work so consistent it became a blueprint for how to build a life with purpose. His endorsements are few but powerful, because builders know he only backs what he believes in. His fame is humble, his values unwavering. In a world obsessed with more, Tom's story is about enough integrity to turn down easy money, enough wisdom to guide others, and enough humility to walk away from the limelight when the body asked for rest. Even his real estate portfolio, while modest on paper, tells a story of a man who valued function over flash, sustainability over spectacle. And as he spends more time mentoring, turning wood, and watching his grandchildren grow, the legacy becomes clear. Tom Silva didn't just build houses, he built trust, discipline, and a version of success that doesn't fade when the cameras stop rolling. His wealth isn't stored in a bank, it's etched into the grain of every beam he's restored, the hands he's guided, and the family he's raised. Because at the end of it all, the man who quietly taught America how to built something far more valuable than money. He built a life worth remembering,